Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kelly Gifford. I'm the Deputy Director here at the ICA. I just wanted to go over one housekeeping, and that is, if you haven't already, if you could just silence your phones so we can all focus on the incredible readings that are going to be taking place. We are truly honored to be a part of this special memorial reading in celebration of the life and legacy of Danielle. I would like to start out by thanking the people that have brought us all here together today. Tom Laughlin, Martha Collins, Tom Johnston, and the entire Mayor's Office of Art and Culture, the New England Poetry Club, and Danielle's family. Thank you so much. Danielle was a deeply cherished member of the ICA family. Her presence, voice, and wisdom left an indelible mark on this institution. Danielle brought profound insight into the intersection of art, history, and humanity. Her work illuminated truths, sparked conversation, and encouraged reflection. Through her role on the ICA's Artist Advisory Council, she generously shared her knowledge and perspective, deepening our collective understanding of art and language. Danielle was an inspiration to all of us, and her unwavering belief in art as a catalyst for connection and transformation is something we will always carry with us. I would now like to introduce Kenny Mascari from the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Onette. My name is Kenny Mascari, and I'm the Interim Chief of Arts and Culture for the City of Boston, and I'm honored to be here with you today to celebrate the incredible life and work of Danielle Legros Georges, Boston's second Poet Laureate. Now, just a few months ago, I had the opportunity to hear Danielle read at Portia Olayiwola's reading at the Museum of Fine Arts, and Danielle read the poem Bill of Sale, which tells the story of an enslaved toddler whose name was changed on the bill of sale. I can still hear Danielle's voice calling out the child's name. Violet, Violet, Violet. She repeated Violet over 100 times. Her words, her voice, something changed in me that night. I took home one of her books and I started flipping through the pages. As the city's second Poet Laureate, Danielle helped us define what the role should look like and brought poetry out of institutions and into the community. She won impressive awards, published and translated many works, but I'm most moved by her deep commitment to making poetry accessible and available to all. She worked with Mass Poetry and the MBTA to place poetry on the T, with Mass Poetry and the Mayor's Mural Crew on raining poetry to select poems and install them on sidewalks so that the poems appeared when it rained. She collaborated with other teaching artists to run workshops to help older adults find their own poetic voice. And this year, her words will be etched onto stones in Poppy Square for all to see. Her superpower, in addition to poetry, was service. In the printed program, my colleague Tom Johnston, who runs a Poet Laureate program, writes about the incredible breadth of Danielle's involvement. Serving on a ton of committees for the Haitian community, for poetry, and for academia. As you can see from the beautiful collection of humans in this room, Danielle formed a real and lasting connection with so many different groups of people. Thank you, Tom, for helping make today possible. I know you often do your work out of the spotlight, but we're grateful for everything that you do and how you care for the poets in our city. And I'll close with a personal note. Danielle's work just hit home as a fellow Haitian immigrant and artist as well. And in this room, I see singers, I see visual artists, I see poets, and I see a collection of creative spirit that we all share through our blood that is blue and red. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope that we stay connected and celebrate Danielle's legacy. Thank you.
I'm Mary Buchinger, and I'm reading what Martha Collins has written. These are Martha's words. My remarks for today initially began with this sentence: I'm here as one of Danielle Legros Georges' many friends and colleagues to thank the many people who made this event possible. But of course, I'm not here. Just 24 hours ago, my partner came down with COVID. I could have read my remarks masked and kept my distance from everyone before. But distance is not what we need now. And I want to respect everyone's health. I'm deeply saddened not to be with you, working with Tom Johnston and Tom Laughlin on this event for the last several weeks has been deeply moving to me in a time when all of us continue to grieve the loss of our dear friend, Danielle Legros Georges. Thanks to Mary for reading my words, and to all of you for understanding. Now, my remarks as I wrote them. I'll begin with the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture, our primary sponsor. And I'll begin there with Tom Johnston, officially Director of Partnerships and Events, and unofficially the director of this event. Tom is the person who has worked most tirelessly to make today possible. I'd also like to thank Morgan Clark, Bonnie Rosenbaum, Samantha Rose Hale, Kenny Mascari of the Mayor's Office, and for her recent work as Boston's third Poet Laureate, Portia Olaiwola, who will be our first reader. Thanks to the ICA, which has contributed this beautiful space, as well as its financial support and its staff, Jill Medvedow, Killy Gifford, and the two people who have worked and are working closely on the event itself, Ryan Arnett and Rebecca O'Brien Panny. Thanks to the New England Poetry Club for its financial support, and its president, Stephen Rittiner, and to 4 of our readers who worked closely with Danielle when she was on the club's board. Thanks to the Grolier Poetry Bookshop and to its manager, James Frazier, who is selling all of Danielle's books today at the table to my left, including the chapbook, which his own press just published. Thanks to Janie Touch, who designed the program that you're holding, and to Cliff Notes of Hip Story, who is responsible for live streaming and recording and the coordination of video and audio. To Andy Jago Linzer of Linzer Productions for video production assistance and for the beautiful posters around us, each featuring the cover and poem from one of Danielle's books. To Ali Schmaling, our photographer. And thanks finally to our readers, listed in the program in the order in which they'll read. Many of them worked with Danielle in the sponsoring and partnering groups listed on page 3 and described on page 7 of your program. 4 of them are publishers of her books, and one was her co-editor for another book. A few of them have come from afar, and a few of them were, like me, just close friends. All of the readers were, in fact, friends of Danielle. All of them are writers, and all of them worked in one way or another to bring art into a broader and more inclusive community. I should mention that Tisa Bryant had to cancel her attendance and reading at the last minute, but is surely with us in spirit. A final word of thanks to the last of the readers. I began these remarks by thanking Tom Johnston. I end by thanking another Tom, Danielle's partner, Tom Laughlin, who has been as tireless in working on this event as he was in loving and supporting Danielle herself in the last months of her life. Thank you, Tom. As we begin our program, I'd like to request that in the interest of time, you refrain from applauding between readers. There will be a chance for applause at the end of the first round of readers, which will be followed by 2 important announcements and some music, and at the end of the second round as well. The person we'll really be applauding is Danielle Legros Georges herself, whose life, work, friendship, and spirit have brought us together today. Thank you, Danielle.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's an honor and privilege to be here celebrating the life of Danielle Legros Georges with you all. The poet Phyllis Wheatley Peters of Boston, by way of slave ship, by way of Gambia, wrote a lot of elegies. One to, I believe, a 5-year-old girl has the line, "By what sweet name and what tuneful sound will thou be praised?" And I am so, again, honored, privileged to be in this room with y'all, celebrating the life of Danielle. And maybe keep in mind the sweet name and the tuneful sounds that'll come across through her work and her legacy. I want to tell you about the time when I was first named laureate, and Danielle took me out to dinner to the most bourgeoisie, glorious spot ever. And the piece of advice that she gave me was, don't let them take everything from you. And say no. And I just thought she is the most graceful, poised, defiant revolutionary I've ever witnessed in my life. This poem is one of my favorite poems from that poet. It is poem as a bill of sale and sight of fury and sorrow. Bill of sale for enslaved 2-year-old girl Violet. Name crossed out and changed to Nancy. Know all men by these presents that I, William Wilson of Concord in the county of Middlesex of New England, for the sum of 30 pounds to me, secured and paid by Sarah Melvin of said Concord, widow, do hereby fully and absolutely sell, grant, convey, and pass over to said Sarah Melvin, her heirs, and assigns for her a certain Negro girl, being a slave about 2 years of age, called Nancy, to be her heirs, and assigns for her in their use and service during the said Negro girl's natural life, hereby for myself, use and service, except executive and admin, warranting her said Negro girl to her said Sarah Melvin, her heirs, and assigns from the legal claims of demands of any person. Witness my hand and seal, April 22nd, AD 1740. Witnesses Thomas Jones, Thomas Miles, William Wilson. Baby Violet. Name sustained and repeating many times. Violet. 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 Vi. Witness my hand and seal the day she is born. Witnesses, mother, father, midwife who brings this child into the world.
Danielle Legros Georges was part of an important development in American literature. The founding of the Darkroom Collective in Cambridge, Massachusetts, led by Thomas Sayers Ellis, Sharon Strange, and Janice Lowe. In 1988, the essayist James Baldwin died. At their home, 31 Inman Street, the Darkroom Collective hosted a reading series on Sunday afternoons of writers for whom the country did not celebrate enough, and those for whom they would soon hear from, including our own Danielle. It should be said that when the landlord saw all the activity going on in the home, he raised the rent. The reading series moved to the Institute of Contemporary Art on Tremont Street. I'm not sure if that history is known about this institution. It has a history of supporting literature. From its ranks, the Darkroom would give the country multiple volumes of poetry, essays, 2 poet laureates, and this city's highest poet, our Danielle. I do not know when Danielle joined, but it seemed as though she was there from the start. an essential member of this radical commitment to literature by writers of color, a reading series in Central Square that would attract aspiring writers and established writers, scholars, students, neighbors, together in community. It was a revolution that rippled out into other literary activism in the country and radicalized American literature so that it reflected the plurality and promise of our democracy. But it was also for many of us the inauguration to our lives in the service of American literature. Although members of the darkroom spread out to far reaches of the country, we always acknowledged each other as family and were inspired by each other's success, most especially Danielle. I remember holding for the first time her book, Maroon, a phenomenal achievement. I remember her announcement as Poet Laureate. We were proud. The Darkroom Collective could only have happened here in Boston, Cambridge in the 80s. There's a vital connection between its history and the city. Danielle, in my opinion, was an artist through and through and through, with a kind and revolutionary spirit that encompassed the full width of her intellect and humanity. She was among the best of us, fierce, curious, and joyful. Today, I read her poem in the spirit and history of the Darkroom Collective and all the revolutions that happened afterwards. In this poem, do not use the word revolution. Use instead a slow swelling of light that begins at a beginning when the scar giver forges the scar and forgets. And the bearer remembers indelibly the mark on the body, recalls how a mark can be made on a body. In the ear, a clear consciousness whispered. Use instead reply, because peace is a place free of trouble, a blue firmament, a gold sun that reaches the skin. Use instead the equalization of all suns, the standing next to, the standing for, rotation, and the equilibrium of stars. Objects held together by their own gravity. Gravity is the flame of dissonance, is the mind honed with the vision of its unity. Grave is the fist raised of the body.
Danielle Legros Georges and I, we both joined the Darkroom Writers Collective in the spring of 1989. And for me, as a writer and a bilingual writer, thinking of Danielle in terms of arguments would have with a particular word, insisting on a particular space, M dash versus a comma. She was an excellent editor, and I'm very proud that she wrote the introduction to my forthcoming updated edition, Rêve sans but, Unfinished Dreams, which would be published by Central Square Press. And in the Darkroom, as well as the Langston Hughes Legacy, where we would meet going over our works. And I remember the first time Danielle, which is in her latest book, wrote some of the poems with the longest lines. And we clapped, we were happy, because Danielle is such a clipped voice writer. When we saw those long lines, we're like, oh my God, it was a revolution. I'm also happy that in the anthology Cities of Motion, she invited me because I'd written a few poems about Boston, featured in that work. So she was always in terms of collaborations, and I've known her for over 40 years. Praise song for Boston. Begin with the Massachusetts, setting nets in the harbor of Boston. Before it was Boston Harbor, Conehassett, place of clear water, and arrived at my door. I, immigrant, like so many settlers, nestle in your arms, write this poem to you, Boston. If I write Tremont, it is for your hills, some still standing, others raised. The land changed, as lands are, as time passes, and yet history is yours, Boston. The good and the bad of it, the inarticulated and the often stated. A Puritan's beacon, Whitley's pen, Winthrop's city upon a hill, Walker's appeal to the colored citizen of the world. The vision and grandeur that are gardeners, the world's loss to the gray and blue Atlantic. If I place an emerald necklace at your feet, it is to match the medallion of your ever-running wheels, bicycles and schoolhouses, the railroads and helms of trade and fate, of fire and grit, of determination's grip, of cod and beans, and the great house of science, and the great house of knowledge, and the great house of art. The International sends the day you were born, if cities are born. And if you are grown, then out of everything you have grown. A revolution spark, the arc of a wide bridge, cable stayed, lit electric waves, and new waves, and the complicated notions of freedom and forward, and the ease of summer days and steady neighbors. Chris, young terror of Summer Street. Alana, eating a pear, already in 3rd grade. John, but call him Mac. Santiago, who yells louder than God. And Wendy, who yells louder. And Wayne, uncle to all, from his big yellow house, greeting each newcomer to the neighborhood.
Hi, I'm Gavin Moses, founder of Langston's Legacy Poetry Collective, along with Florence Ladd. Our group was formed at Harvard Smith Center in the spring of 2019, pre-COVID. And Danielle joined our group. Our group consisted of Florence Ladd, Patrick Sylvain, Joshua Bennett, Andrea Bossi, and Latasha Diggs. Danielle was a vital part of our group. She was prolific, she was funny, she had style, and she knew how to put things together. In our group, she would always listen to all the critiques, and then at the end, she'd give an outside angle, which was always appreciated. She was encouraging, and she told me that she was always looking for a group like this. And so we were very proud to have her in our group. And this afternoon, I'll be reading one of her poems called Carved Ivory Head of a Woman. This is one of many poems that she wrote in our group, and they're also in her book, 3 Leaves, 3 Roots. Carved ivory head of a woman, taken from my mother's house many years ago, whose provenance is the tusk of a beast, whose fierce intelligence is expressed in its amber eyes, whose flesh is gray as a Lake Kivu dawn, whose memory is long, whose eye is the size of a human's mind, fixed upon the study's top shelf, atop which sits the object, whose flesh is the beige of bone, whose eyes are inversions, whose visage is a sister's, by which I mean a black woman's, whose lips are beauty, whose nostrils are a slight flare, whose coiffure is the precise separation and togetherness of cornrows, whose forehead is high, whose origin resides in the sculptor's mind's eye, in the concatenation of the model's exquisite genes, whose father is the full moon, whose mother is the sun. As all life is anointed, and all life comes down, and the sound of the first wound is made, as perfection is subtraction, as a tusk is extracted, as a chisel bears down, and the artifact formed and beheld, as the right price is conceived, and the sale made with sweet words, and the item packed and carried across land and air.
Danielle couldn't stand me when we first met. I have that effect on people. And then somehow we got cool. Cool enough to love arguing with each other a lot. Who's argued with Danielle? Let me see armpits. Okay, look around, people. Okay, who walked away better from those arguments, right? It was a thing of iron sharpening iron. It was a thing of her bringing you to the next space in which you could be better than where she found you. And I respect her so much for that. I think I echo, of course, what Major said, that she was among the best, if not the best of us. Many of us poets, we are fortunate enough to get to say what we need to say. Danielle said what needed saying. We think many times we're important, but Danielle was necessary. Understand that. Necessary. She was needed. She's a person of wisdom, easy grace, fierce erudition, and, as you said, Gavin, humor. She could tolerate whether you were ribald or whether you were irreverent. I happen to be both. So I really taxed her. She read a piece about a creature, connecting it to a boxer, Jack Johnson. It's a strange piece. And I loved it for its strangeness. And Danielle had a way of digging into the strange and bringing that out to show us ourselves. This creature she spoke about, I had seen as a child from the Chicago Shed Aquarium when I was in grade school. And Danielle brought that creature back to me in a way that I'd never thought. We eat cold eels and think distant thoughts. We eat cold eels and think distant thoughts, said American boxer Jack Johnson, glistening like a fish, to the newsman who asked him why white women were drawn to black men like him. What is it like to eat cold eels and think distant thoughts? What is it like to be a black man who eats cold eels and thinks distant thoughts? What is it like to be a black man who eats cold eels, who thinks to say, we eat cold eels and think distant thoughts? To a white reporter in the early 1900s America who wishes to reduce him to meat, to red, to sexual. Once in the Chicago Aquarium, a long time ago, I met an eel. I was told by the label on his large tank, weighed 53 pounds and was 100 years old. It looked at me with such fierce intelligence through the glass and silty water of its address. Its gray, bald head, almost human, its two lidless eyes, its small nose holes, and instead of a body below its head, no body, but a tail of fluid form, one great muscle behind ears that were not ears, but also holes. Its whole body beating a slow, chilled rhythm that kept it afloat. And a cool terror shot through me as it watched me watch it, as it followed me through the liquid wall that split our worlds and separated our species.
Trois feuilles, trois racines. J'étais blié, ramassé, songé. Trois feuilles, trois racines, j'étais blié, ramassé, songé. Moi gen bassin moi, trois feuilles tombées là-dedans. J'étais blié, ramassé, songé. And here is Danielle's translation of this traditional song of home. And that is also the title of one of her last books. For us Haitians and friends of Haitians who know about the Haitian culture of some of our traditional songs, this title wasn't chosen by accident, and it is a proof of the work of Danielle about home. I see all of us here today for a celebration, missing her. But Haiti has lost most in Danielle's departure. Her voice is needed more now for the sake of the country. Her writing speaks of home, the condition of home. And I read you her translation of this song. That is the title of her book, Trois feuilles, trois racines. Three leaves, three roots. Oh. Cast them off and forget. We claim them and remember. I have my basin here. Three leaves fall into it. Cast them off and forget. We claim them and remember.
I'm going to read one of my favorite poems of Danielle's, but it was really hard to choose. The poem I'm reading is called Broad Wing. I want to disable desire, to free, roaring in me, something inchoate and large as the world. As a girl, I lay in bed, rubbing the big and second toes of my right foot together in a slow meditation, in an endless act, back and forward, slow and forward, forward and back. And for some reason, by some physics I do not understand, I would feel myself lift close to the room ceiling, and my toes become two planets, rubbing their extraordinary masses together. And the two planets, more massive than anything I could comprehend, in the darkness that I knew was the universe, infinite. What this has to do with sadness, I don't know, except as a small silver river and some way to return to my body. This page, which is a way to stay the broad wing of sadness, which seems linked to desire, the longing for what can't be re-seen, be re-felt, what can never be direct again.
I'll be reading from 3 Leaves, 3 Roots to Tintin books. Who does not love Tintin? Boy reporter, not knowing I too am the native coming with a saw to saw off the tail of Milou, the talking dog, en route to the Congo. Who dives into the water off the ship on those watercolor pages, the jade blue. Next page, I am in the crowd of natives, wearing one boot and one shoe by the rickety railroad, to greet the great Tintin, a boy, a god. I am Tintin, boy god, who takes on the roaring lion, who takes on a tribe of Africans, who vanquishes the evil medicine men, returning triumphant. Pith helmet, uniform of khakis. The pages almost turned themselves. Tintin, boy reporter on assignment. What is the lesson? What is the lesson? And what is the lesson in Creole where Tintin means junk?
My name is Charles Lucien. On behalf of the Haitian Artists Assembly of Massachusetts and the Toussaint Louverture Cultural Center, I had the chance to maybe have the last reading with Danielle Georges on January 29th for the release of 3 Roots, 3 Leaves, which I saw as Haiti, Congo, and the US, 3 Roots. I think of Danielle in terms of creativity, wit, generosity, and identity. Now, when I spoke with her in October, editing a piece, she insisted, Charlot, don't tell, show. So when I say generosity, Danielle was one of the founding members of the Haitian Artists Assembly, worked on us for 3 years to help us release as an editor the anthology of Haitian poets in Massachusetts. So she contributed to translating some of the pieces here. When I say generosity, that's Danielle Georges working with her uncle, the great Haitian storyteller Jean-Claude Martineau, to help translate some of her poems. Danielle Georges pulling the artworks of Desilien and writing a poem just by looking at this Haitian man dragging a cart, which he claimed he was dragging the whole mountains of Haiti. And I think of generosity when Danielle, by translating Ida Faubert, helped bring to the public French version of translating Haitian poetry to others. So I'll be reading a Dominican poem, a stateless poem, which again speaks to Danielle expanding her views to anyone who shares the same values. A Dominican poem. If you are born and you are stateless, if you are born and you are homeless, if your state and home are not yours, and yet everything you know, what are you? Who are you? And who am I without the dark fields I walk upon, the streets I know, the blue corners I call mine, the ones you call yours? Who am I? Who am I to call myself citizen and human and free? And who are you to call yourself landed and grounded and free? And who's judge enough? Who citizen enough? And who native? Who other? And who are we who move so freely without accent of identification, without skin of identification, with all manner of identification, with gold seals of approval, with stamps of good fortune, with the accident of blameless birth? Who are we to be so lucky?
And now we have two important announcements. The first from Marceau Crespo, who is the Educational and Cultural Project Manager for the Consulate General of France in Boston.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is a privilege to be here today to celebrate the life that enriched us all, one marked by creativity, intellectual rigor, boundless generosity, and a profound commitment to justice and beauty. I stand before you today as both an admirer of Danielle Legros Georges' work and someone who had the privilege of working alongside her. My name is Marceau Crespo, and I am here on behalf of the Consulate General of France to share that Danielle Legros Georges was named Chevalier de l'Ordre des Arts et des Lettres, a knight in the Order of the Arts and Letters by the French Republic, in recognition of her extraordinary contributions to the arts and culture. This recognition, France's highest cultural honor, is awarded to individuals who have made significant contributions to the arts and literature and to the promotion of la francophonie around the world. Danielle Legros Georges embodied the very spirit of this distinction with brilliance, with depth, and with unwavering purpose. Danielle was above all a poet, one whose words carried the weight of history, the tenderness of memory, and the fire of resistance. Her poetry gave voice to silenced legacies, to diasporic stories, and to the complexities of belonging. Her command of language, whether in English, French, or Haitian Creole, was luminous and precise. Her voice, unmistakable. Her devotion to the preservation and promotion of Haitian, Francophone, and Creole literature cannot be overstated. She worked tirelessly to ensure that Haitian and Caribbean authors, particularly women, were translated, read, and understood in the Anglophone world. She translated the work of poets such as Ida Faubert and Marie-Cécile Agnon with care and reverence, and advocated for the importance of linguistic diversity in literature and in public discourse. At conferences, in classrooms, and in print, she reminded us that language is a bridge and never a barrier. Danielle's life and work modeled how art and activism, scholarship and community engagement can all live together. She was not only a writer of the world before the world. Her participation in the 2023 Boston Book Festival alongside Charlotte Lucien over here, present today, in Tonton Guy, at a panel organized by the Consulate General of France alongside the Everett Haitian Community Center and Refrain Littéraire, exemplified her ongoing dedication to the intersections of migration, translation, and identity, a conversation she was uniquely equipped to lead. I believe that we have a responsibility to honor the artists among us, to give them their flowers, not only in memory, but while they are still there to hold them. I am deeply grateful that Danielle was able to witness the admiration and respect we held for her, that she knew in her lifetime how deeply we valued and continue to value her artistry, her spirit, and lasting legacy. Though her departure came far too soon, a profound absence is felt deeply by the many lives she's touched. Today, we choose to celebrate the radiant light she brought into the world, a light that continues to shine in all who were fortunate enough to know her. Danielle transcended borders and languages. She brought the voices of her ancestors and her communities into the light, and she did so with grace, with care, and with love. And that is why we will continue to speak her name, read her words, and be guided by her example. Merci beaucoup.
And now a couple of announcements from Danielle's brother and my dear brother, Gerard George.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you all for being here and sharing this moment. Everyone has a special connection with our dear sister, our dear friend, our dear advocate, our dear supporter, our dear agitator. And Danielle has created a brotherhood with Tom and my other two brothers, Bernard and Stefan, that we wouldn't have had without her linking us together. And Danielle had a way of linking people where they are as opposed to where she's at. My expression and my thoughts about my sister is that she was like a multi-dimensional puzzle that allowed her to express herself to others in a way that they could be seen and understood at different levels of the puzzle. But she didn't stop there. She found a way of drawing us in to seeing the other facets of that puzzle. That was her challenge. That was her blessing. Ever since I was a little kid, Danielle was always able to find, as I'm a visual artist, as a painter would find, or an alchemist would find, different colors to mix, to create something stronger, bolder, more complex. And her colors were words. Like the stars in the universe, she would pluck out certain light out of the darkness, combine them to a constellation that was unique, that we all gravitated towards. So, in that, we would like to continue her legacy, and we believe that there's much more to learn from her words. And Martha, Tom, my brothers Bernard and Stefan plan on developing a scholarship in her name and in her honor. She had always felt strongly about the youth of Boston and the opportunities for them. So please stay tuned. You'll find out more information around the scholarship. And we also want to share that her words will be etched in Copley Square Commission this year. So more information will be shared on her website, her Instagram, her Facebook, my Facebook, Tom's Facebook. And I really want to thank Tom and Martha for really helping the family manage her literary world. And thank you all for being here.
And now we have the pleasure of an angel Boston singer, Rebecca Zama, who will sing Toi Fais, Toi Racine, who what we heard from read by Jean Denis. So, all yours.
Toi fais, toi racine, je t'ai oublié, ramassé, songé. Toi feuille, toi racine, je t'ai oublié, ramassé, songé. Moi gagné, passe-moi, toi feuille, tombé là-dedans. Je t'ai oublié, ramassé, songé. Moi gagné, passe-moi, toi feuille, tombé là-dedans. Je t'ai oublié, ramassé, songé. Toi feuille, toi racine, je t'ai oublié, ramassé, songé. Toi feuille, toi racine, je t'ai oublié, ramassé, songé. Toi feuille, toi racine, je t'ai oublié, ramassé, songé.
No one left the conversation with Danielle unchanged. When I met Danielle, we met at the Mass Poetry Festival through a mutual friend, Alpha Micah Weaver. He says, she's Haitian, you're Haitian. I can't believe you guys haven't met each other. And I was surprised because we had traversed the same spaces. But one of the things about being Haitian born, but also someone who left as a result of a coup and feeling a bit lost in the world was that I was shy about the type of Haitian I had become. I spoke Creole with an accent, which people were quick to tease and quick to tell me that I had forgotten who I was. Not with Danielle. She allowed me to fully live out that experience because, as I discovered, she understood what it's like because the family history and the stories. And so we bonded over letters from Congo, which became the first, one of the first chapbooks that I published to my publishing company, Central Square Press. And it wasn't an editorial decision. It was one of connection. Because during our conversation, I realized, as a lot of you know, that Danielle loves words. But I don't just mean as a poet. She just loves certain words, and she would harp on it. And then we would talk about the history of that word. And especially when it came to Haitian Creole, we have expressions. And those words require you to do a whole bodily movement and facial expression. And sometimes you can almost hear someone sucking their teeth in what they're saying without even doing that. And she just helped me rediscover the beauty of that language because it was always there. And I think we talked about what it's like to be lost and what I refer to in my poem, Voyager, being lost in the interstellar space of your very own body. And sometimes you just need permission to be yourself again. And Danielle did that. Conversations with Danielle were hinges. They would always open something up. And sometimes I would tell her, we need to stop talking now because you're giving me a lot of homework and my schedule's busy. I don't want to be writing it. But that's the way it was. It wasn't intentional. She was always into do something. And I realized she did the same in her poetry. She built hinges in her poems. She wasn't going to tell you every single time what to do or how to think. But every time you read one of her poems, you had to think about which way the door swung. And one such poem is a poem titled Macaque. See that word, you have to get into it, right? And she talks about how we inhabit the language of our colonizers. And at some point, you start to pause and think, who is the oppressor now? Macaque. The men are called boys, and the women, mamas, in the houses of colonies, masters, on the lands of the boys and mamas. The whites are called masters, and the natives, macaques. Even with each other, they say macaque. And we say macaque too, at the smallest infraction, at the least mistake in the land of the boys and the mamas. The men enter the white houses to cook and clean, the women to watch the babies by day. The mambas glide through the impossible grasses, climb up the tallest trees. The macaques are themselves, not knowing their insults. They move swiftly from tree to tree. They screech in the night of macaques and mamas and masters and boys. We can say this: a macaque and boy will become a man, who becomes a leopard, who plays master, then is master, and the house is burned, and the fields blow to ashes. And the ashes, they whisper, macaque.
Hello. I published Danielle's translations of Ida Faubert. I heard her read from her translations many times before we began working on it as a project. And she delighted in, if there were some melodrama in one of the poems, she delighted in ending it by doing a little flourish to let you know that, it's just art. I don't know what, but it was very funny to see. This poem is titled When You Are Told.
When you are told that I went softly one night into the unknown, that a wild desire came over me to see you and be consoled. When you are told that my tender heart gave way to too much pain, that my passion is utterly gone, that I sank into great silence. When you are told that my veiled eyes in an empty room sought you out in vain, that for you I spoke desperate words, with time passing too quickly. When you're told that you're alone, that I've gone beyond these shores, far from hot suns, that a cold shroud now covers all our old dreams, pain will trouble your spirit. You'll lament the love I take with me, but regrets will come too late when you are told why I've died.
Comme vous avez déjà entendu, Danielle a donné sa voix aux autres, comme elle a sa propre voix. And Zephyr Press was proud to publish the penultimate, I think her penultimate book, a translation of 3 Haitian poets, Haitian women, among whom was Marie-Célie Agnon, and I will be reading her translation of of Invitation. Invitation. In the secret of a simple joy, I set a time with you over there. The day will be as before, roosters crowing the morning wet, men rising solid and strong to wrap their arms around the fields, women sowing springtime, planting life's seeds. I set a time with you in a dress of desire, eternity's mystery unending, renewed. I will wait for you. On that day, children, as before, their moonlit smiles, happy as love's promises. I set a time with you. Let us set down sly misfortune, set down the debris of doubt. I set a time with you to be reborn, with you on the wings of a wave to re-find our faces buried in the furrows of this earth. Thirsty for all the ways to be, we drink the sea, and in this secret of a simple joy, we die. Life, our soul, our island. In the chest, a shout of innocence. Your life lost in mine.
With my wife Bella and our intern Annalisa, I'm here representing the Grolier Poetry Bookshop, a place where Danielle had a long history. I'm also here because Bella and I had the honor of working with Danielle on her forthcoming chapbook, which we are launching at the main branch of the Boston Public Library on June 10th at 6 p.m. This is a poem from that collection. The suit of Elizabeth Freeman begins standing in service, all ears, as if she had none, waiting the well-set table, the colonel proclaiming mankind and a state of nature are equal, free and independent. And why not me, standing here, as if I have no ideas, no wit, no friends among men who can make out word from fact? Am I not equal? Am I not able to catch these gists when all the drafts of freedom are setting the colonies aflame? Who says I can't walk up to the lawyer and say, it seems to me that this applies to me?
It was a joy to work with Danielle on the anthology Wheatley at 250, Black Women Poets Reimagine the Verse of Phyllis Wheatley Peters. And it's an honor to read her poetic contribution to the anthology. On being brought from Africa to America, a re-inscription. It was mercy indeed who carried me from what was deemed my pagan land. Mercy, you showed my soul to me, taught me to understand that God exists, that something greater exists too. Now, mercy, who knew what you and I knew? Some say and see the dark as dead, as colored by a naught and dread. I say, I name us fully: Cain, daughters exiled, sons of rain. In us the flood, the moon and tides, horizons, uncut shores and lines, and more. The rays and versed libations to the waiting sun.
Bonsoir tout le monde. Good afternoon. My name is Edwige Dantica. I once was a traveling companion with Danielle when we went to Haiti together, when the Haitian government had this idea for something called Vacances pour un demain meilleur, a vacation for a better future, where they encouraged young Haitians to return to Haiti, and Danielle and I were on that trip together with some college students. And I got to know Danielle better through her work. Her poem, one of her poems opens The Butterfly's Way, Voices from the Haitian Diaspora in the United States, which was one of the first anthologies I edited. And in December, Danielle sent me trois feuilles with a dedication that said, wishing you all the best year may bring us more justice and more peace. That did not happen, but she was a beloved companion, as Toni Morrison says, a friend of my mind, as well as a friend of my heart. So I will read from Trois Feuilles, my beloved companion. I write you these words, not knowing whether you will receive them, when you will receive them, and whether I will still be alive when you read them. Opening the letter, know itself to be a vision, a key proper to the dark lock, and behind the door, a plane of light muted as a savannah's revelation of a woman walking fringed by children, hers, his, a nation's, the writer formed by the ink of self-determination, a border promise, what we wanted for our country, its right to an honorable life, to perfect dignity, to independence with no restrictions. He knows his wife will not read the letter. She will hear it read. He knows, reader, that you will know he speaks to you. What else can I say, he writes. It's not my person that is important. What is important is the Congo, people whose independence has been turned into a cage, with people looking at us from outside the bars. He says through bars, outside, in, how his faith will remain unshakable, how we are not alone.
I'm Kathleen Aguero. It's a great honor to be here and to be counted among Danielle's friends. So much has been said about her, it's hard to know what to add. She had a singular poetic voice and a singular presence, which drew everyone to her. Danielle and I collaborated on a number of projects, which with Danielle always felt much more like adventures than projects. She had a real gift for friendship, as well as for poetry. I think she made anyone she counted as her friend feel like a special friend. she was full of joy. And I think what I would like to take with me, one of the things I want to take with me from knowing Danielle is that sense of joy, which is a species of courage. She was very courageous. I'd also like to read a poem from Three Leaves, Three Roots, her book about the Congo, because it speaks to me not only of those times, but of today. Instructions in times of emergency. Turn the radio low, but listen. A slow rustle, a dictator. Do not turn, though some turn, against a neighbor. Do not look a beached and bloated body in the face. Do not plead to God. Witness the executions. Your human self, keep it alive, a type of flame. Your lizard self, your toughest skin, wear it. Shut your door against the night. Keep your door shut against the creeping night.
Good afternoon. I was working as the public affairs counselor at the U.S. Embassy in Port-au-Prince when I read about Danielle being named Poet Laureate of Boston and that she was of Haitian origin. So I immediately got on the internet and looked for work, and then I got a phone number for her, an email. I wrote to her, and I was so touched by the fact that she was born in Haiti. She was speaking Creole and French and English. She was a poet of the great city of Boston, the Poet Laureate of Boston. So I invited her to come to Haiti on the behalf of the U.S. people, which the U.S. government represents, to speak in Haiti. And she accepted. So she became a speaker for us. She taught various workshops in Port-au-Prince and in Le Caille, and then and at the end of the visit, I invited her to read poems at my home. It was a very special thing for me, here I was inviting Danielle back to her home to read in my newfound home. And I'll never forget that, and we became good friends and kept collaborating on various projects over the years since then. That was I think it was 2016 when she came to Haiti that time. And then here is a poem of hers called Power. And this is about Jean-Claude Duvalier and that departure and about America too. I was away at school when my mother called, Duvalier, allez. She was pacing forth and back. I suspect, turn on the TV, she yelled. So I did. And there was the scene, a car moving through the dark and through the glittering windshield, Jean-Claude, and Michelle bearing a cigarette in her right hand over a bent and supple wrist. Or is it an insouciant wrist, or a melodramatic wrist, sending fuck you to the cameras, to the crowds jeering, fuck you too? Or is it a wrist to fend off fear with a capital F, the panic of what the fuck is happening here, the dread of a figurative cliff after which the car will spin, will plunge, the precipice of the world they have known and written, ending. In the back seat, the baby and the bodyguard or a general or someone. Perhaps they know nothing. Perhaps they know everything. Guileless, guilty at once. The baby knows, wordless. The car's speed, the what he has been born to. Not yet. Jean-Claude grips the wheel with his hands of death. His job is to drive, to just drive. An American plane awaits them. It is always an American plane to take them from the heat of their making, of the Americans' making. A cigarette burns in the closed car. Outside, the purple pre-dawn gone, the furs and tropical fridges for them. Gone the electricity for green aquariums. Gone the golden gowns, the turbans, the flight from Port-au-Prince to Paris. The water bending on the plane, beading on the plane window, the water being swept away by the wind. Thank you, Danielle. Thank you.
Hello. I'm honored to be included. I'm honored to be a friend of Danielle's, a close friend for the past 10 or so years, and humbled, always humbled by Danielle because she was so extraordinary. I chose a poem that's the last poem in The Dear Remote Nearness of You for several reasons. One, because it brings back the buoyancy and exuberance of Danielle, and also because her love of playing with words is ever present in this poem. It's called Pleasant Street, Spring. With spring on my back, around my neck, with the clock turned forward into break-in, open slowly onto muted skyscape, into dusk flight, dogwood, dangerously careening, blossom, flesh flare of leg on sidewalk walking, into fern, green stone, grass, tree, one more word, and I will be swimming in a garden. And now, verdigris. There it is. What to say, but give me the world, wonder too. Force me a line, force me in line with what's around me off this page. Drop the space between this and there. There.
Good afternoon. I'm really happy to be here, although honestly, this is hard. But I'm so grateful to be here to celebrate my friend Danielle, her words. What is water? What is water but rain, but cloud, but river, but ocean, but ice, but tear? What is tear but torn? What is worn as skin, in as out? Exodus. I'm trying to tell a tale that shifts like a gale, that hurricanes and casts a line, that buckles in wind, that is reborn a kite, a wing. I am afar. From the passage, from the plane of descending them, suitcases, passports, degrees of mobility, like heat on their backs. This cluster of fine grapes, Haitian, purple, beige, black, brown. When I found out that Danielle passed away, I was in Lagos, Nigeria. My heart broke, my pen splintered, and my words leaked out. This is a poem for Danielle. You always held me from afar, a steady light when the world was heavy with loss. During the pandemic, when brave ones fell and my mother suffered silently, loudly, you were there, a force a sister's love. You pushed me, sometimes gently, sometimes not, nudging me towards the impossible, the perfection of self. Ruthless with my words, you carved clarity from access, and I embraced it like my runner's high at the finish line of the Boston Marathon, a 10K, or just a race of the day. I loved your assassin sophistication, the way you knew just what I needed, a poetry godmother, a dream weaver, a dream catcher. You understood my heart. You knew my love for Auntie Angelique Kidjo, and you made sure I met my Shiro backstage. a gift wrapped in music and time. I remember us of the MFA, your voice filling the halls as you gave honor through words. And at my birthdays, how you danced, laughing, embracing, bringing together strangers and friends. Endless invitations to readings, to gardens, to libraries, to parks, to spaces where words breathed. Where you made sure I belonged. And still, you hold me from afar. Andimbo kanganwi shamwari yangu, andimbo kukanganwi shamwari, andimbo kanganwi shamwari yangu, andimbo kanganwi.
Danielle loved being in nature, walking, hiking, running when she was younger, and swimming, especially in the Caribbean. We met at Pleasure Bay, Castle Island, in Boston Harbor on our first date. And we walked along Boston Harbor to Carson Beach and beyond. I'll read two poems, and the first is a spring poem at this season, published originally in Ibbotson Street magazine as well as in her book Dear Remote Nearness of You, and later included in City of Notions anthology. Carson Beach. Spring arrives all caution, a cat that smells something suspicious, its brown paws testing the snow fighting for its life, and the earth beneath it all knowing snow's jigs up. The sky lifts its gunmetal grill, decides it no longer wants to hold the sun captive, and would rather have a convict on the lam. Seagulls who know no shame crap into the shifting sea, which forgives them and cleans up their messes, small crest by small crest. The sea is not reckless like the Caribbean, which blinds you with its blue sheen. The sea is unruffled. It doesn't sit or leap exactly, but ripples its cool. It flexes, it purrs. Summer was Danielle's favorite season, and the Caribbean held a central place in her heart. We were lucky enough to spend time in the Caribbean together 3 times and to swim in the waters that she loved. This next poem was published in What Tells You Ripeness? Black Poets on Nature, edited by Nikki Walschlager and published by Pangyris Press. Summer, you. What tells you ripeness, love? What tells you wonder? To green a bud, to bloom, to burst, to plunder spring's dear light. Who is most wonderful? Who struts in chartreuse dress, rose crepuscule and full finesse? Who shakes you low and shakes you high with bright fruit, fan, and mango husk? Whose orange is as orange does and targularly stars the light? Whose grace espouses heft and hue? Who does things better? Summer, you. On December 15th, 2014, Danielle received a call from then Mayor Marty Walsh, informing her that she had been named Poet Laureate of Boston. In that same call, he also informed her that he was planning to hold the first ever State of the City address to discuss the city of Boston's successes in his first year as mayor, as well as its needs for improvement in regard to education, housing, and diversity. He told her in that address it would be held in Symphony Hall, that there would be 2,500 politicians, dignitaries, and others in the hall, that it would also be broadcast on local Boston television, and that it would be held in less than a month on January 11, 2015. And he said, and by the way, you're the new Poet Laureate of Boston, so your first assignment is to write a poem to begin those festivities. The video is being queued up. I want to say thanks to all our readers, presenters, our singer. Thank you to everyone here this afternoon to honor and celebrate Danielle Legros Georges and her life, her work, her legacy. Thank you again to sponsors, City of Boston Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture, the ICA, and the New England Poetry Club. And additional thanks to Grolier, to Haitian Artists Assembly of Massachusetts, to the TLCC, to Darkroom Collective, and to Langston Legacy Poetry Collective. Still waiting. I want to make a special thanks to Tom Johnston for all he did for Danielle during her tenure as Poet Laureate of Boston, and for all your work, wherever you are, and care attending to so many details to make this day happen. Still waiting. And special thanks to Martha Collins, my former professor and dear friend of Danielle and mine, who was there helping Danielle and me in her final days and has been beside me ever since, working tirelessly to help me and Danielle's family. Thank you for your wise counsel, your countless hours of work with the two Toms here to honor and celebrate Danielle's work and legacy today. Here we go.
Praise Song for Boston. This poem is indebted to the work of historian Robert J. Allison. Begin with the Massachusetts, setting intricate nets in the harbor of Boston before it was Boston. Conhasset, place of clear water, and arrive at my door. I, immigrant, like so many settlers, nestled in your arms, write this poem to you, Boston. If I write Tremount, it's for your hills, some still standing, others raised, the land changed, as lands are, as time passes. And yet history is yours, Boston, the good and bad of it, the inarticulated and the often stated, a Puritan's beacon, Wheatley's pen, Winthrop's city upon a hill, Walker's appeal to the colored citizens of the world, the vision and grandeur that are gardeners, and the words lost to the gray and blue Atlantic. If I place an emerald necklace at your feet, it is to match the medallions of your ever-turning wheels, your bicycles and school buses, your railroads and helms of trade and fate, of fire and grit, of determination's grip, of cod and beans, your wheels in the great house of science and the great house of knowledge and the great house of art. International since the day you were born, if cities are born. And if you are grown, then out of everything you have grown, a revolution's spark, the arc of a wide bridge, cable stayed, lit electric. You have grown out of wharves and new waves, and the complicated notions of freedom and forward, and the ease of summer days and sturdy neighbors. Chris, young terror of Sumner Street. Alana, eating a pear and already in 3rd grade. John, but we call him Mac. Santiago, who yells louder than God, and Wendy, who yells even louder. And Wayne, uncle to all, from his big yellow house, greeting each newcomer to the neighborhood. Welcome to the street, he says. Welcome. Thank you. Greeting each newcomer to the neighborhood. Welcome to the street, he says. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you all, and maybe a big round of applause for everyone's amazing work today. And please join us for a reception and continue to toast and to celebrate the life and work of Danielle Legros Georges.